Super. Super. Fantastic.
All right. Well, then now you're gonna have all this waiting at the beginning of your recording. All right, hold on.
Is it? Hang on, I'll have a glass of wine.
I'm just gonna open my window. Oh, what a rush to get here. I just put a message on YouTube just now, 5 minutes ago, telling everyone it was 8 p.m. But anyway, too late. Oh my.
Yeah, well, I got some misinformation.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's like,
well, yeah, I know our time change is coming up, but we go to Eastern Standard Time. But right now we're in Eastern Daylight Time, so it's 2 o'clock. It's 2:03 right now, according to that clock over there. Anyway, so there you go. Tells you a lot about time, I guess. So welcome to this monthly non-duality Zoom with Don Garland, Hamish Stansfeld, and me. Thank you for coming. Please keep your microphones muted until invited to speak. This is being shared live on YouTube, so by asking a question, you're giving consent. We encourage you to raise your hand virtually after the brief introductions by unmuting yourself, turning your camera on, and asking your question. Alternatively, you can write your questions in the chat on YouTube or right in the Zoom. And this is for entertainment purposes only. And with that, why don't we hear from Hamish with an introduction to non-duality, please? Thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't really know what non-duality is, to be honest, but I'm a bit shy to talk about that at the moment, but I can talk about Kundalini because it's incredibly volcanic here. I'm happy to talk about Kriya if anyone's got any questions about that. I'm happy to talk about the end of the seeking energy and how I experienced that. Yeah, it seems to me that I mean, I don't really know what's happening here. It's all very crazy, very intense, but I enjoy talking about it. And it seems to me that what Kundalini seems to be doing is taking away filters almost that are filtering my experience of reality. And I mean, I've talked before about this moment when I was in a pub chatting to people, and all of a sudden this sense of me that was sort of, I pictured it in my head somehow, just disappeared. And then I was chatting with my friends, and suddenly it made no difference anymore whether the sound was coming out of their mouth or my mouth. And it was just entirely bizarre. It was all just sort of like one happening. So that sense of self went away and hasn't come back since. But you know, I don't, there's not much clarity still about what's happening. And I watch a lot of videos about, you know, sort of late stages of realization, and I don't really relate to them. So I think I'm still, you know, despite this weird thing on my head, which is sawed on by the Kriya, you know, I feel like I'm very early stages realization. If there are stages, you know, or apparent stages or whatever, but anyway, certainly what I can say is that the body seems to have completely gone kind of limp, and the body feels very relaxed, and I think that's why this energy is kind of using me as a puppet. It can lift my hands and just do all sorts of things with me because there's no resistance to whatever this energy is. And the literature will tell you that it comes up from the base of the spine. That seems accurate. Opens up all the energy centers, not necessarily in order. You know, so I had my heart felt like it got bigger twice, and this whole thing is accompanied by bizarre experiences and you know, seeing numbers and all sorts of confusing things like that, but it is obvious that that it's all just some kind of happening, and that sense of self has disappeared, and I guess this whole thing came about through listening to radical non-duality, and I kind of started falling in love with the feeling that this is actually home already, and there isn't anything really to attain that will fulfill that sense of need, or that will fill that hole. Yeah, I think that might do for now. So yeah, feel free to ask me any questions you want, and I might ask some questions myself as well.
Thank you. Dawn, please.
Yeah, so non-duality it's really a shift in identity in a sense. In one sense, you can talk about it that way, but it's the seeing through of the physical, and so just seeing the oneness of everything. The self disappears, and the seeing through that you're not the person, although in a sense, personal life still exists, so it's the seeing of everything and nothing, the seeing of absolutely the emptiness of all forms, so the formless, and then seeing the form as well. So form and formless are one, basically, Shakti and Shiva. So seeing it's known very deeply, and it tends to bring about some changes, and the seeking sort of stops when unconditional love is seen, which is sort of the joyous kind of aspect of all this, brings about sort of deep peace. I mean, it doesn't mean to say that it's always deep peace, but certainly around the time of the seeing, that's always kind of there, the love and peace, and a lot of neurosis can drop away, and there's a lot of defenses are blown, so you're in touch with your vulnerability, which is in fact the strongest kind of place you can kind of be. So everything you were afraid of, it's now possible to open up, and so you enter into life more deeply in a sense, but in other senses sort of felt as a loss as well. So is that there's like no sense of location here, that's experienced during the event. For some people that comes back, some people it didn't come back here, and it also it can blow the mind apart as well, so that all thought can stop, and sometimes permanently, but usually not. There will be shift in the way the mind is experienced. Mental chatter tends to slow down. There may be periods of stillness. It basically affects everyone differently, and there seems to be different degrees of depth of this, and and over time it can alter, and it's often accompanied by energetic experiences such as what Hamish was talking about, Kundalini experiences. But a Kundalini awakening can happen before or after awakening. It's supposed to be a sort of clearing, psychological clearing. That's what it's often described as. Whether that's the case or not, I imagine it is, because it brings a lot of unconscious material up, which for some people experience that as difficult. I think most people are probably fine, don't struggle with it, but that's just a guess. I don't know. I don't really know. So, it's always been enjoyable here, even the negative experiences. I don't regret them, because they're quite interesting. So yeah, that's what I want to say right now.
Thank you, Dawn. One second here. Put this on here. All right, cool. So if you're in the YouTube land, you can type questions in the chat. I see King Dale Clark is in the chat. Or if you're in the Zoom, you can raise your hand, ask your question, raise your hand virtually, or just jump right in. either way. But I'll just say a couple things. So non-duality, and of course we can get into all these other things that were mentioned. But in terms of non-duality, I would just say the way it's expressed here is this perfect, beautiful mystery. And there's no knowing what this is. And the reason why it seems beautiful here anyway is because it's absolutely everything, which is no thing. It's this no thing being everything, this mysterious, unknowable no thing appearing as all things. I think maybe it was Ram Dass was talking about this, just this, the absolute. And somebody said, well, is it how could it be the starving children and all these horrific things? And certainly there are a lot of things we can point to now in the news. And he said it's those things, but it's also your desire to end those things. It's both and it's everything. It's the war, it's the protests, it's sometimes called unconditional love because there's no exceptions. There's no, I remember once sitting in a meeting and I was talking and the speaker said, the problem is you think there's the universe plus you, or you plus there's me and then all these other things and things that I need to attain, things I need to achieve, things I need to realize, things I need to become in order to be okay, in order to be at peace, in order to be enlightened. No one's enlightened. There's no one here that's enlightened. There's no one here is the point. There's nobody home. I like the lights are on, but nobody's home because it's just this one, I don't think it's an essence, but I heard Sailor Bob say what one essence appearing as everything. And I like that. I resonate with that. But that essence can't be known because that's all there is this essence, this aliveness, this beingness, this isness, this happening, non-happening mystery experience. The outpouring of totality happening all at once. Well, anyway, so there really is nothing to teach and no one teaching and no students and anything like that. There's nothing on offer. It's just saying it's already the case. There's nowhere to get to. This is it. It's always already. And essentially that's non-duality as far as I like to talk about it. And with that, we can open it up 2 questions. And just jump right in. Andy, go right ahead.
Hey there. Hi, Hamish. I just want to pick up on something you said in your intro. You said you become aware of numbers. What do you mean by that?
Oh, yeah, this is, well, when, as the Kundalini starts to evolve, there's something called numerology where you just start to see repeated numbers everywhere. So the number like 1111, you know, and it sounds almost cheesy now, you know, because loads of people are into it, but I never really believed in it. But there are definitely phases where you just keep seeing repeated numbers. And with Kundalini, when it starts to evolve, like I just suddenly became of all these magic and occult phenomena. I started reading about Aleister Crowley, who was like a magician in the 1950s, I think, or 40s, or something like that. And then you just like I spend a lot of time in magic shops now. Like I see stuff in my mind, like symbols, and then I go into a magic shop and open a book. I was like, oh, that's what that means. Like the other day, I saw like the symbol, like a triangle with a line, and I was like, what's that? And then I found a book of like magic symbols. I was like, oh, Holy Spirit. It was the Holy Spirit. And so it's just like sometimes you feel like you're following these bizarre clues, but I don't take it too seriously. I mean, I did at the beginning, and I got a bit obsessed before I had like this dark night of the soul where the seeking energy really seemed to sort of come to like a close, and I had this moment of despair. Before that moment, I was a little bit into like the numbers and the magic, and I felt like I was following clues, and I got a bit carried away with that. Even though I'd had that loss of that sense of self, there was still seemed to be seeking happening quite intently. And then it came to a close. I was watching a video where of Emerson, and he was, and I went online, and I've been lying on the floor scratching at my head furiously, and at the time I had blood all over my head, and I felt like I was being led to this particular Zoom meeting just by following clues or whatever. And I thought I was gonna join in on this Zoom, and I thought everyone was gonna clap. I thought maybe Tony Parsons would be there, all these people, and go, Hamish, welcome to the clan. And I got there, and it was just a bunch of people, you know, just sat there, and I was there with blood on my hand. I was like, wait, what? And then I just started shaking, and I turned off my video, and then I just had, and everything just closed in on itself. Like it was like all like the doors of possibility just all closed one by one, and it was like there's no hope. And everything just kind of so as far as I know, that was the end of the seeking energy. But I doubt myself all the time, because like I'm so not clear on non-duality and what and any of this stuff is, that part of me is like, well, I must still be seeking subtly, right? Because I can't figure any of this shit out, you know. So I don't know, but anyway, certainly I felt very chill after that energy, after that big energetic shift. So numbers are just a part, they're just a part of the process. You bizarre phenomena, visual phenomena in the visual cortex, the world around me, as this Kundalini is evolving, seems to evolve. People become friendlier to you. You're putting out a different vibe. It's almost like the outside world is somehow a reflection of your inner world, and they're not really disconnected, you know. So as you change, the appearance changes with you in a way. That's what I'm experiencing at the moment. Anyway, that's what seems to be happening.
Okay. So what about that, like Walter and Dawn, things like, I think what Hamish is talking about is kind of like synchronicities, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
that's a part of it as well. So yeah, numbers, lots of synchronicities. You go through phases where these things happen a lot, and then others not so much. Sorry.
So what do you guys think of that? Is that just coincidence, or is it relevant, or is it nothing?
Synchronicities, I don't it's not something I know about, really. I can't really speak about it.
I would say that they don't need to be taken seriously. They're just, yeah, they're just phenomenological changes. I don't know either, to be honest.
No, they do tend to flag up at certain periods in your life, and they definitely seem meaningful to anyone who's experiencing them, you know, unless you're totally skeptical and denying your own experience. But yeah, I mean, I notice them. I mean, I notice them. I don't think they've necessarily anything to do with awakening. You can have them any stage. I think everyone can relate to them. But yeah, so yeah, meaningful coincidence. I mean, that's kind of Jung's take, I think, on it. He wrote about synchronicity, but I don't think there were any particular conclusions. Tim Freak's written about them as well. Yeah, I mean, but they're a bit taboo to talk about that sort of phenomenon on non-duality talks, but anyway. What about you, Andy? Have you experienced any synchronicities?
Yeah, probably. Well, definitely I have. Nothing that springs to mind immediately, but yeah, I've certainly had them. At times, yeah, what happens, it feels relevant. Sometimes it feels deeper than other times, as you say.
I have a few questions from YouTube. Somebody said, as far as synchronicities, they said, like checkpoints along the path of the story.
Yeah, that resonates. They felt like that to me, like little marker points, little checkpoints, little encouragement, or something like that.
Pingdale Clark asks, can you ask the panel about the term used by Sailor Bob Adamson, space-like awareness? He says this many times, and do you agree with him? He says, we're all this space-like awareness and one without a second. So, Dawn, space-like awareness.
Awareness, well, it's not a word I use. One without a second. Well, that's the definition of Advaita Vedanta, isn't it? So it's one without a second. So it's non-duality. That's what non-duality is, isn't it? It's just one thing, no space, no time. Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of reifies things, doesn't it? The using awareness, it's just, yeah, it's to see it as formless, form, and or just oneness, or you know, beingness, presence, whatever. But Sailor Bob. I mean, I'm not really familiar with Sailor Bob. I know who he is. I mean, I think.
All right. And Hamish, anything on space-like awareness?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying a lot recently that I don't really know what consciousness is and awareness, but I did, like, because I go through, like, I try to meditate, but meditations for me is just movement. So for a long time, for the past year, rarely have I been able to sit in stillness, except that every now and then the Kriya will stop. And then suddenly I'll be still for like 3 or 4 minutes. And that happened the other day. And that was really nice because suddenly I had a bit more clarity. And then there was this interplay between thoughts and awareness, which I'm kind of familiar with for when I used to read Eckhart Tolle and try and meditate and try and figure out when I was thinking and when I was not. And that was suddenly very clear. It's like, okay, now there's thoughts. And then there was this expansive sense of beingness, this kind of depth, this kind of oceanic sort of depth that started to be felt. And I was like, oh, okay, so that be what people call presence or awareness, but I don't know what it is. And then as I'm lying there, I'm like, is that me? Am I that? Or am I not? Like, I don't know. But it felt very peaceful anyway.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Lots of questions coming in from YouTube. So this one is from Robbie. Hamish, what kind of reactions do you get from members of the public given the physical markings?
Oh yeah,
on
crazy.
your forehead?
It's funny, because all sorts really. Lots of shock, like I very rarely do I get someone who looks at me like they think I'm crazy, and I would assume that would be the common thing. But actually, people tend to take it seriously, and I get lots of looks of shock, confusion. People, I don't know. I'm trying to imagine what people are thinking when they see it. It's like, is this a thing now? Are the Buddhas walking around now? Have I not been paying attention? Maybe that's going through their heads. And sometimes my favorite one is big smiles, like big, big happy smiles. That's my favorite reaction. I get that sometimes on the tube, and but I get reactions, sometimes when I don't even have sometimes I wear a hat. And one woman, I was on the tube and she was looking at me and she started bawling her eyes out, like crying. It was really bizarre. We had this little moment together. And I had my hat on at the time. So lots of odd phenomena. I think there's a contagious thing going on with Kundalini for sure. I mean, I've had people, a lady at work started shaking, her hand started shaking when she was next to me. It's not like I was in the pub the other day celebrating my mate's wedding thing, and the guy next to me, I turned to him and he was sitting with his thumbs and his fingers like that, like staring into space, and I was like, haha, like I got you. I Kundalini'd you. I don't know, just little it seems to be like electricity or something like that. Yeah, but no, the reactions are funny, and I try and be quite brave, and I try and walk around without my hat as much as possible. Sometimes it just comes down to my head being hot, and it's just like, screw it, man, I can't be asked. But at work, I keep a hat on because I'm at work and I work with kids and interact with parents, and I don't want people to think I'm a nutter. So it's kind of daunting, having this thing on my head. It's kind of daunting, but it's kind of exciting at the same time. Just kind of going with it. What else can you do? The energy is so determined to put it on there. Even if I take my hand out, it will just go, and I'm like, okay, shit. So I don't know. This is all going, man, but it's weird. It's weird.
Thank you.
Well,
King Dale Clark has another question. And he says, okay, another question. Many of these non-duality teachers, if you like, collect statues of Buddha and make sure their bedroom is all spiritual, which seems to defeat the message of non-duality. He said then there's something to do or acquire. Can you comment on this? Thanks.
What was the last bit? Could the do or acquire?
It says that there's something to do and acquire. Can you comment on this? Thanks. I'll just say I don't have any. I have these three monks, these little things, just because I like them. But I don't know. I think it could feel nice to have a room decorated with things, and there's nothing wrong with that. As far as do and acquire, yeah, I mean, there's things to do and acquire in life, But in terms of, like Hamish was talking about the end of this seeking energy, and that's because there's nowhere to get to. There's no higher plane. Like this is it. This is the absolute. It's not two, the relative and the absolute. This is it. This is no thing being everything already. That's the message. So you know, if you want to say the person or whatever, the character, it doesn't matter. But like in my life, I do things to acquire things. You know, I might work out to stay healthy or so, you know, there's cause and effect on the in life. But it's, you know, it's this absolute perfection being that, already that. So it's kind of a both and kind of a thing. But do you guys want to comment on statues of Buddhas and things?
I don't have much to say really. I think it's just each it's just preferences. I don't have particularly any statues, but I wouldn't mind them, you know, like incense, that stuff like that. Maybe some people look at them and it gives them a moment of peace. I don't know. I have some cool artwork and stuff. Yeah, I'm no, don't know.
Don?
Well, my bedroom's
Any-
too spiritual, I think. I think I need to be spiritual. There's an obelisk there. Just like, yeah. I'm guilty of painting with mushroom psilocybin and magic mushrooms in it and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. You know. Yeah, what's it? I mean, I don't know. It really depends. I have no opinion on that really, but yeah, people who give talks with pictures beside them of gurus and stuff. I mean, I don't even care about that, to be honest. Do what you want. I mean, it's a bit cheesy, maybe. I think, but it's just personal. It's just your personal taste, isn't it? I don't really care what anybody else does in that regard, you know. Yeah.
All right. Rakesh, come on in.
Hey.
Hi, Rakesh. Hey.
Anyway,
Hello. I just wanted to say hello mainly. But also when you guys are talking about statues and things, I was going to ask a bit about how you feel about being around nature, and do you think that's what helps people feel with their Buddha statue and stuff, like how some things just seem to have a bit more of a certain juice to it, you know, like being in nature, like by a tree, or maybe, you know, an obelisk, an obelisk on the shelf. Like, I don't know if you have any theories on what that is about when you're around a tree or something, why that has this extra juice to it.
yeah,
there's
those.
definitely
I think.
sorry.
Oh, but like a statue or something can go wear out, but nature never does it? In a sense, there's always that aliveness there. I think that nothing kind of. I mean, like being around an object, you can become a little bit indifferent to it, but there is something about nature that's always fresh, that you can really see the sort of aliveness there. Like definitely. I mean, but there is obviously in certain situations, like in a cathedral or a church, sometimes a sense of awe as well, depending on the object. But I think just living around something, it's I don't know. It becomes habitual, doesn't it? I think sometimes, but depends what it is. I don't know. Hamish, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, just similar. Yeah, there is just there's definitely something to the aliveness in nature, and since this transformation, when I work, I've always loved trees. I just love them. I'm fascinated by them. the way everyone's completely different. You know, I don't know. I've always liked trees for some reason, but I just stare at them now. You know, I walk to work and I just find myself staring at the leaves, and I don't even know what I'm looking at. You know, I'm like, why am I staring at this tree? I don't know, but there must be something about it, some presence in nature that is sort of quite beautiful.
Yeah, it's powerful. Trees are really powerful. I find that. And there's something about being outdoors as well, where this seems to be deeper somehow. I felt more deeply, I don't know, just the elements and I don't know. So I think that's probably, but also the novelties, the steepens in novelty to a certain extent as well. I think it, and then there's always something new in nature, isn't there? It's always moving and changing in the weather and just how you see it, and I don't know. They're beings, aren't they? Trees, there's a kind of real, you know, sense of something there, you know, something alive and I don't know. What about you, Rakesh? What do you have?
Yes, it's pretty much the same. I think it's just like a bit like what Hamish said. Sometimes I'm looking at a tree and I don't know what the fascination is. There's no mental reason for it.
Yeah.
And then at other times it feels like the movement of it, the vibrancy of it, that the fact that it's not ever still, and there's something fractal about plants in general. They seem like it's almost like you're seeing the different dimensions of one thing, like fanned out somehow. But I think just on a general level, just being outdoors as well, or like you said in a cathedral, just there's this sense of being part of something bigger. Like it makes me feel simultaneously small and large.
I think that the sea's a bit like that, isn't it? When you sit with the ocean and just the ebb and flow of the waves, you know, that sense of awe again. You know?
What about you, Walter?
Oh, I do love nature. I was just did a tour. We have Arboretum, and it's nice. It was like 2 hours. Every tree's, you know, identified what it is, where it's from, all this kind of stuff. It's beautiful. But also, you know, there's some things you can't plant because they don't work well with everything. Just kind of. So anyway, it's so yes, absolutely, it's beautiful and it feels great. But in terms, yeah, if we're connecting it with the earlier question about statues, like Course in Miracles has a thing that says, we give everything all the meaning that it has. So if we are assigning beauty and all these qualities to something, you know, I think that's within us, you know, because, you know, not us as in like we own it, but it's just like, where would a tree get beauty and all this amazing connectivity and stuff that we're talking about? You know, where would I get that? How would anyone come up with that? You know, it's just it's a mystery. I don't know what I'm saying, but it feels good. But at the same time, there's nothing quote unquote special about it. So like you know, if you're in the city like me, or if you're in the middle of, you know, the woods, one is not more spiritual than the other. It's all the same. But I get it though. I mean, I'd rather be I'd rather be out there looking at the trees than the brick buildings. So, for what it's worth.
I think shortly after my sort of shift, I quite like both. I mean, I used to spend a lot of my time walking and sitting, and I like to sit by the roadside as well and watch the cars just as much as sitting by the lake and watching the ducks. So I don't know that I had a preference at the time, like, but yeah, just exciting. You know? Anyway.
All right. Anything else for Kesh?
No, that's it. I do have to go, but I just wanted
Okay.
to say it's nice to see you all together, and
Great to see you.
Thanks for popping by, man. Good to see you.
no worries. Yeah.
Been nearly a year actually. But yeah, that's
Really? Is it? Yeah.
well, since all four of us were together. It was
Oh yeah, was that a year ago?
last
Oh wow.
Was it?
Yeah.
well 10 months.
Yeah.
10 months.
Oh, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's like a virtual reunion.
Yeah.
A saner one.
I had no,
A sober one.
no sense of time. That's just flown by.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I can't believe it's been that long.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Nice to reunite.
Yes, very nice. Thank you.
Let's see it.
Thanks.
All right. We got Dean Walker coming in. Is there such a thing as Kundalini overload?
Yeah.
Energy just gets stronger and stronger for me these past years. Is it a case of retreating from meditation or allowing the energy to burn us up? Question.
Do you want to say that, John?
Well, I could go first if you want. I mean, I don't know. If it's overload, it is, yeah, stopping meditation is good. Exercise is good. Eating more dairy, heavy foods is good. I don't know. Do anything that grounds, even if it's walking barefoot, as long as it's somewhere safe to do that. So yeah, just the opposite of don't isolate, don't do anything that kind of replicates a retreat kind of scenario, you know, so stimulation and stuff like that. But you know, it can go that way, of course it can. Like, you know, some people psychotic states, don't they, when this kind of stuff erupts? It's not that I don't know, I mean, but if you're, I guess if you've got psychological deep trauma stuff and this kind of stuff erupts, it can be problematic. That's what I hear. I don't know how common that is. I don't know what the stats are on that, but so yeah, you want to raise it, you do all those things that I just said, you know, well, meditation typically, although I don't know that it always works like that, and I imagine you find the same, Hamish, that for me it's quite difficult to pin down sometimes why it's full on, but sometimes it just seems to me something shocked me or something scared me, or like something out of the blue that's a wee bit intense, like intensely good or intensely bad, seems to raise it suddenly, and phenomena occur, which to be honest is much better than being kind of shocked in some way, not in a major way, but like and just being adrenalized is much more interesting than just being adrenalized, or whatever, however you cope with that. What about you, Hamish? Would you?
Well, my career are always full on, but they've never quite got to the point that they've overwhelmed me. But I get crazy. Like today, it was putting my hand down my throat really far, and I was just gagging. I was like, blah, Sometimes it's really uncomfortable, but I think because of fitness and yoga, that really helps. I feel like my body can take whatever's happening to it. I did speak to someone on the phone who'd seen my channel, and we had a nice conversation. She lives in Canada, I think, and I think she felt like it was too much. And I think she'd had maybe an accident, or so she couldn't work out. She wasn't maybe particularly fit. I think she was a bit older from what I remember. And she was struggling because the Kriya would just da da da, and she was getting like finger twitches, like really, and it can be. Yeah, I can see how it can overwhelm. It can feel overwhelming. So I don't know. Maybe the best thing to do is just step away from it for a while, or eat some bad food. Or it is tricky because this thing ultimately is going to do what it's going to do. And what I find at the moment is that I get crazy stuff where it starts to, the fingers start to poke behind my eyeballs and sort of fiddle around back there. And when it starts to get intricate like that, the best thing to do, I've noticed, is just focus on your breath, because the whole thing seems to be mediated by the breath. So if you focus on your hands, you'll interrupt what it's doing. But if you focus on your breath, then it will allow it to do whatever it's trying to do without you poking yourself in the eye. But yeah, I like I say, I don't really know what to do if it gets overwhelming, because I've never been. I've had it really intensely where I thought this is a bit much, but I've always felt like it was okay, you know. And I think on, so even it's just a trust thing. Even if it does feel overwhelming, if you can just stick with it and breathe through it, it will eventually calm down. But obviously it's not always possible. So maybe walking away sometimes is the best solution. I walk away a lot.
Yeah, and so you can sometimes negotiate with it as well. I've heard people who talk to it, and there does tend to be this tendency where it doesn't seem to happen at the wrong places. For a lot of people, it is when you're in private or when you're relaxed. I mean, because you can rein it in work, right? I mean, yeah, and I think Bonnie Greenwell talked about that. You can sometimes have a conversation with it. Please don't, it's sort of some kind of response, bizarrely as that sounds. But, the other, things are really, really bad. There's always heavy meds, like, but I don't know. But yeah, running's good. If it's like aerobic exercise, if you can really, just that, anything raising the heartbeat's good as well. Just kind of yeah, whatever grounds you. Hot showers, hot baths, they're grounding as well. So if you're grounded enough to get into one, because sometimes people feel like when they're overwhelmed, it's the last thing they want to do, bizarrely, the stuff that's good and less caffeine and stuff. Yeah.
Dean says, to clarify regarding Kundalini overload, psychologically I'm okay, but just physically uncomfortable, like a pressure cooker all the time for years. I've been in this process for 22 plus years.
Wow, it sounds intense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know if there's been any evolution in that, or I mean, because there's not the information really. Is there, like, what sounds exhausting,
Well, I said to Dean to join the Zoom, so we'll see. But
yeah, okay.
I can only read what is typing in here on YouTube. But in the meantime, Kingdale Clark asked about chakras. So I don't have much to say about chakras, but do you guys, can you say anything about chakras?
Yeah, I can say that traditionally speaking, the energy starts making its way through the body. The way it feels here, it feels like almost like a tree's growing inside me, and it's sort of coming up the back of the neck, and it's like tentacles are trying to get into my brain. And as it's traveling, apparently there is these energy centers in the body, and and they sort of become activated, and energy is able to flow through. I guess that contraction, that sense of me, and that tightness and that energetic contraction, as that starts to unbind, these energy centers can suddenly breathe better or open up. And I guess they've been all constricted. I'm sort of making this up as I go along, but I'm assuming that's the way it works. And then energy can just flow freely, and it's sometimes like it's very obvious when they come online, and sometimes it's not so. I mean, when my throat chakra came online, that was really obvious, and my head went back, and I could barely breathe, and I was kind of like, I was making this crazy noise. And the next day I was speaking with a sort of a passion and an authority, and I didn't even recognize myself or what I was saying. So I think, I'm like, okay, well then my throat chakra has obviously just come online. And so yeah, that just seems to be part of the process. And then you can get mind openings as well. You know, third eye stuff here, where you might get visuals, you might started to get like visual stuff going on. None of it I could really understand or make sense of. And then they say that ultimately the energy comes out the crown, or the crown. So it's different parts of your brain become dormant, parts of your brain that are not getting any energy suddenly get all this juice, and that obviously is going to create different experience of reality, I guess. And Gopi Krishna talks a lot about that, so he might be an interesting guy to look into.
Hamish, your screen's going nuts.
I know, I've just noticed.
It kind of goes with what you were saying, but
it's the synchronicity, see? Let me see if I can turn it off and on again.
Yeah, I mean, I for me, a lot of out of the body or transdimensional experiences, you know, being in another experiences of being in another dimension, if you like. They seem to correspond very often with a chakra. Tends to be like the throat or Vishuddha, or the root Muladhara, and I've had the Sahasrara, the crown chakra. Very, very definitely not something subtle. I mean, you know, 100% involving those chakras, and otherwise it's just the energy floods the whole body. And again, that is just very, very intense. Nothing subtle, like energy moving. It's like being blasted apart. Like it really is. It doesn't make any sense, this stuff. And then out, maybe another reality, whatever. But yeah, often a chakra. And I was so skeptical, so I find it interesting when I didn't believe. And my heart opening when I had experienced that was definitely the heart region. It was the heart chakra, you know. And if you've had one of those, plenty of people have experienced that, you know. So there probably is, like you say, Hamish, you know, it involves speech, obviously, the throat chakra, but it's interesting what happened with you. Very definitely seems to correspond with that. It's just is bizarre. So it's not totally random, this stuff, like.
No.
But I mean, there's some of the books reify it a little bit too much. Like it's always like this, and it's not. It can be any which way as well. It doesn't have to involve chakras at all. I mean,
what was it like when your heart chakra opened?
It just felt like a described like a iron gate being lifted off my chest. Suddenly this weight. It was bizarrely visceral, and then just the love pouring through and from, like, just this, the lightness afterwards was incredible, just absolutely incredible.
Because I think for me it's mainly my throat chakra that I noticed come online, and the other ones not so much, just activity in the other ones, I think. Activity.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
Right. Well, third eye, I think a lot of people get activity.
Yeah, I've had activity there. Yeah.
You're probably getting it now, I bet. Probably everybody's sitting there with like something going on.
If there's anyone in the Zoom that has a question, just feel free to jump right in. Otherwise, I'll go back to King Dale Clark. He has a question. He says, there are books about magic, and where there's all these elaborate rituals that they say will lead one to perform magic, like mind reading, levitation, time travel, even turning invisible, and control of life after death. Do you think? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. What do you guys think about all that?
It wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. I mean, once I became aware of magic and that sort of thing, I mean, the stuff that's happening here is so far out that it wouldn't surprise me if more far out. Yeah. I mean, it seems to me like it's a real phenomena. I don't know much about it. I've not really practiced it. I did one time. I did a magic ritual, and that did seem to work. And I was kind of led to do it by the Kundalini, but I didn't. It's not like I decided that I wanted to do it to achieve something. It was just I found myself going there because I felt like I had to in a way. And yeah, like I was saying earlier, sometimes I'm interested in it as a layman, and so I can't really speak much to it, but it wouldn't surprise me if why not levitation? Why not? Why not? I don't think there's much limits to this appearance and what can happen.
God, anything on ceremonial magic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, but the stuff he mentioned, the examples, they all seem quite extreme, so I'm very skeptical of that, but definitely there seems to be, I mean, I was only ever on the periphery of that kind of magic. Basically, I was curious about it, but I never got involved. But I know a lot of people who not a lot, but there's some friends of mine who have been involved, and yeah, they seem to definitely, there's some power there or something. But I assume they're being sincere. So yeah, so I don't doubt that there's something that goes on. Yeah. But yeah.
I think you really have to study it as well. This is what I found when I become aware of it. I thought, well, that'd be cool. Maybe I could ask for some money for one thing. But as soon as I open these books, man, they are so cryptic, and it's all about number. And I felt like I was studying science or something. It's all about making connections in the brains, symbols, connecting that to that to that. And I just, in the end, I had to put it away because it was taking. Yeah, it's hard work. It's like a subject that you have to get into and study. I don't know how many people are actually doing that. But
there's some dodgy, creepy magicians, sorcerers out there, aren't there, as well? Like, to be wary of. And Aleister Crowley, you wouldn't have wanted him in your life. I mean, like the books he wrote apparently are really powerful, like 777. I don't know.
Yeah,
but like,
there's something to them for sure. Yeah, but you got to be careful. I think
a lot of suicides around him too, weren't there? Like
really? I didn't know that.
Scotland stuff. Yeah,
really?
Like really dark character. Yeah, I don't know. Fascinating. But yeah, timely topic since it's kind of Halloween. or night. Like, exciting. It's gone dead. Everybody thinks we're just starting. It's my fault.
Oh yeah.
Well, normally people tell me about the clocks. I think last year you told me, Walter. I'd like.
What's that?
The me getting the time bolstered up.
Oh. Yeah, we're.
Then somebody told me it was 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we what? We're either 4 or 5 hours apart, depending on where we are on the calendar, right?
Yeah.
So you had a comment. I don't know if I was muted a second ago, was I?
No. You weren't.
Oh, I was just reading this comment. Sorry. It's difficult not to give this energy, meaning Kundalini, attention, because it frequently turns orgasmic.
Wow. Cool.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not been orgasmic here, so I don't know, but sounds great. I can speak a little bit to sexual kriya, if I don't know if it's appropriate, but quite funny and interesting. during the beginning, like, what I will say is this kriya, it doesn't leave any of the energy doesn't leave any area untouched, so it will go down south basically. And I think it says something about this energy here. When that did happen, it was very tentative. It started just kind of poking around now, actually. So, and I was kind of like, what's it doing? And this was back in the beginning, where I thought that maybe this was some sort of spirit guide or something, or some entity that wanted to have sex with me. And I was like, yeah, this entity digs me, man. It's trying to like instigate something. And but it was asking permission, and it was just because it wouldn't actually do it. Like, my hand kept, this is a bit, maybe a bit much, I don't know, but my hand I kept going down there, and I was just like, what's it doing? And it was waiting for me to give it permission. And then I went, oh no, please, go ahead, whatever. And then it went to town, man, and it just went crazy. And back in, at that time, I just thought, well, this is some sort, I'm having sex with some sort of spirit guide. And then I realized later on that it was just improving the functionality of my body, which it's doing everywhere. So that's a bit, sorry if that was a bit much for some people, but I think it is interesting to know that this energy will do that kind of thing, and they do say it's a sexual energy. It's very odd. But no, I've not had any particularly orgasmic feelings or anything like that, other than those few moments where it just seems to be improving the function of the organ. I took it to be.
Actually, Dean Walker wants to ask a question. Come on in, Dean.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thanks for inviting me into the Zoom. That's really kind of you. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. Yeah, I've been having a process. I mean, I think it's Kundalini. I don't know. I mean, I've spoken to Craig Holiday. I had a one-to-one with him, and I've been on a retreat of his as well. So I'm treating it as if it is Kundalini, but it's very much for me. I don't have any kriyas whatsoever, which is why I'm really curious about your situation, Hamish. I'm aware, that people do have kriyas, very extreme movements, and in some ways, I think I'm a bit jealous, because if I had kriyas, I think maybe it would actually release some of this tension, because I've got so much tension in my body, and it's almost like, sometimes in deep meditation, I will find subtle movements, and sometimes I will find my jaw moving and things, and I just kind of, if I relax, things do move a bit. Okay. It's very occasional. It's not like, because for you, from what I can see, the moment you relax, it just starts, and you give it permission to do it. And for me, that's not the case. But to clarify on the overload, I mean, what my experience has been is that it started off 20 years ago. It was just like this little aesthetic tickle, if you like. It was just this little feeling of like something was tickling me, and it was kind of slightly uncomfortable, but slightly sort of orgasmic feeling or whatever. But and it just gradually got more and more and more, and it just started
like a whole body orgasm.
Yeah, well, what would happen is I'd put my awareness in this sensation, and it would do a little dance around the body, and it's like, well, I'm not doing this. It's just moving. And so this is energy moving, but it wasn't moving in the spine. It was just moving around the torso, and around the body. But as time has progressed, it's just got more, it's presented itself more and more fully. And sort of now I'm aware of all the chakras, there's a lot of intensity. I've only got to close my eyes, and each of the chakras is just lighting up: the third eye, the throat, the heart. All of them are, doing a dance, but it's as I say, pressure cooker. It's like really intense. To the extent where I think, okay, I better leave this alone, because the more attention I give this, the stronger it gets. But I can only go a day or so of not meditating, and I start to feel a bit depressed. The energy seems to stagnate, and also I get these feelings in the body which are calling my attention. So it's very much like the Kundalini, or if it is, has its own intelligence, and it's saying, look, I want some attention. You can't just forget about me, you know. But then when I give it attention, it just gets really, really intense, and at times it's painful. You know, and I'll just be there in meditation for like 2 hours, and all I'm doing is just observing with kindness this really painful, stuck tension that's just, you know, it wants to flow, but it can't, kind of.
I mean, it definitely sounds like Kundalini, but maybe it can't flow because of, I think maybe Don might be better with this one, but I think maybe there's obviously knots and blockages in the body, and it might be that inside that the tension is trying to undo knots, and that the Kriya aren't happening because it's tackling a knot, but it's not. It only becomes obvious when the knot starts to undo, and then this sort of thing starts to happen. If the blockages are very solid, all sorts of things could be going on internally that you're not aware of, and at some point the intensity might break through, and then it might make its way through that particular blockage. And but maybe Dawn might be better with this question. I'm not sure.
So are you wanting to take the energy down then? Just like you just,
well, if I put my attention in my sort of base chakra, if I put my attention in my feet, then the energy does go down. But it's very much as soon as I stop the intentionality, it just then comes back up and it's stronger.
It's funny. Do you know, like, because you said if it is Kundalini, like, because it sounds so that, you know, it must be like.
Well, I think it must be, it must be. But I mean, I can't know for sure. I don't know. How do people come to the conclusion that it's Kundalini? I don't have any kind of visions, you know. They don't have any, you know, like if there's a third eye opening, it's certainly not presenting me with any sort of other kind of vision or anything like that. I don't have see, one thing that's interesting, I don't have any what do they call it? There's a name for it, where you don't have an inner eye. So if someone tries to visualize something, I just have no images in my head.
Oh, right, okay. So that could be trauma related as well sometimes.
That's I'm wondering, you see, whether or not there could be some psychology here that's responsible for some of this. It could be. I'm not aware of any trauma, but obviously that's the place I go to with, you know, when I've been researching this. You know, trauma is meant to be, you know, Kundalini is sort of like goes to the places where there are trauma, trying to release it, doesn't it? Understand.
But you said like the chakras light up. I thought you meant that literally, like you're seeing.
Light. Well, I'm very kinesthetic, so I'm using that term light. I mean, sometimes I do see a bit of light, but it's very kind of faint. It's not like overt. But by and large, the sensation is kinesthetic, and by lighting up, what I mean is it's like vibrating. It's very vibratory, and sometimes it is quite orgasmic. But very often, you know, it's like 10% of the time it's orgasmic. 90% of the time, it just feels like a pressure cooker. So,
okay, right, okay. Pressure cooker. Is there any other way of putting that? Like,
well, I mean, the way that if I close my eyes, and I will get a sensation, typically it will be in the solar plexus or it will be in the chest, but then the throat will then come in and it will feel full. There's a fullness to it. So it's, and I mean, there have been occasions in the past where I've actually felt like a great big thick, like 1 inch wide thing was coming up my back. So I have had that, and it's come up to certain points, but then it's kind of dissipated. But in terms of pressure cooker, it does feel like I mean, it's hard to describe, but it's a very much a vibratory quality to it, and it's very much a tension. There's a tension to it as well, and a fullness to it that is kind of like that wants to be released. So it's But I mean, I thought that would be a reasonably common experience for people, but this is why I wonder if, you know, maybe it's not Kundalini, because if it doesn't fit the pattern that other people experience.
That's the thing. I don't think there is a pattern, and I think that's what Dawn was saying earlier. You know, in those old texts and books, and you know, Upanishads, that the way they explain it is almost like it goes boom boom, every chakra lights up like a Christmas tree, but everyone's experiences are so different. I mean, Dawn's and mine are completely different, and so the same with other people. But yeah, if you're getting chakras lighting up and energy moving around the body, and it's not just like a 1 week thing, and it's continuous, then I think it has to be Kundalini. Sorry,
the nearest thing that I've come across to this is reading a book by Joan Harrington called Kundalini Vidya. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but they have what they call deflected arisings, where the Kundalini, instead of going up the Sushumna, can actually go up different channels. Like there's a Vajra channel. I don't, and when you have people that have Vajra arisings, they call it a sex arising because it creates this kind of craving, if you like, sexual. There's that orgasmic element to it, but it can't reach the top of the the crown, and so it keeps on going up and down, and it's frustrated, and it's like, oh, okay, maybe it's that. Because it doesn't seem to go to completion, so maybe it's a deflected rising.
Yeah, I think Gopi Krishna thought he had that, and he sort of visualized redirecting the energy up the Sushumna, the central channel.
Right.
So I mean, visualization's got a kind of power about it regarding this stuff, I think. I don't know, Craig, but I was just thinking of the physical stuff. Didn't he have back problems for years? I mean, like 7 years or something. I mean, but
he had a lot of pain. Very difficult.
Difficult one. I remember that, and so I mean, always the advice is to check it out. The doc. Well, you've heard. I'm sure he would have even said that to you, but.
No, over the years, I've been to see various people. That's the thing, isn't it? When you have this sort of stuff, is that you then spend thousands of pounds trying to get fixed in the conventional, medical route. No joy.
I don't know. So no visual stuff at all. I mean, some people just don't get that. I didn't get the visual stuff in my second Kundalini awakening in 2019. So
right. I think I've remembered the term now. It's called aphantasia, and it's just like no inner eye. But as you say, trauma. I mean, that's an interesting thought. That if trauma could be, underlying that, it certainly makes the memory poor. My memory is just absolutely dreadful. I can't remember things, whereas I think other people they remember things by seeing it in their mind's eye. I don't have that. Anyway. But anyway, I don't want to dominate your conversation, but thank you for letting me speak.
How's your Kundalini, Walter? Just like,
we have a question about Aleister Crowley.
Right.
He once turned himself invisible and went around Mexico City, and nobody saw him. Can you tell us your thoughts on that, please?
We probably did, but it's like what we were saying earlier. I mean, I think these things are probably possible if you can check this stuff out. But I would say be careful, because magic it can't, like Don was saying earlier, it can get dark and it can get dodgy, especially if you don't know what you're doing. So I don't know how healthy it is to get too obsessed with these things, but do I believe that he did some crazy stuff? Absolutely.
A bit more skeptical, but I don't know.
Well, we have about 15 minutes left, and we have 10 people in the Zoom, 17 on YouTube. So if any of you have questions, please go right ahead. Or comments.
I'm just going to plug in my laptop while there's a pause, because it's running out of battery.
Sure, go right ahead.
Crowley's, I mean, all his magic didn't help him in the end. I mean, he died in poverty in Hastings. I think he was addicted to opium, I'm not sure at the end, but he was a bit of a mess, I think.
I'm not very familiar. All right. we have something for Hamish.
Yep.
I'm not, let's see, Hamish, what after the meaningful moment at the Emerson Zoom talk?
Sure. Hang on, let me sort out my video.
Okay.
What happened after that moment? Is that the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Sure. Sorry, my video's gone bananas. Sorry. Okay, if it does it again, I think I'll just leave it. What happened? It was really odd. So there was this moment really. Oh shoot! I'm gonna turn my video off and just speak, I think.
Okay.
So there was this really intense moment of despair, as I was talking about earlier, and it happened in the evening. And it didn't last very long, because then I just went to bed. And what was interesting about it was that at the same time, there was the despair and relief, like those two emotions seemed to rise together. There was despair at the fact that I felt like there was nowhere to go. That's the only way I can describe it. It was kind of the end of something, the end of CD. And then simultaneously, with the despair, there was a kind of relief, and it was a kind of like, oh, at least I don't have to do it anymore. That's it. It's over. Done. And then I went to bed, kind of morose. I don't know. But then the next day, I don't really remember how I felt. I was obviously fine, and I went to a Tim Kliss meeting. Actually, my video is working again. I went to a Tim Kliss meeting, and I described exactly what I'd said now, and I kind of felt. I remember looking around a little bit like a baby for the first time. I was just staring at the walls and stuff, and felt pretty chill, and told Tim what had happened, and then went for a drink afterwards with Tim Kliss, and that was really fun. So nothing really happened after that moment. It was just the particular type of energy of something needing to happen, just sort of hit a wall or exhausted itself, and nothing happened afterwards. Just the body just chilled out, because there's so taxing on the body, this sense of command, something needs to happen, and we need to get somewhere, and yeah, so yeah, that was it. That was it, really. I don't know if that answers your question very clearly.
Thank you for that. We have lots more questions and people coming in. So, what is the evolution of the ego prior to realizing non-duality? Go for it, Hamish.
What is the evolution of the ego prior to realizing non-duality? Oh, that's a tricky one. Don't know that does the ego evolve? What is the evolution of the ego before realizing? I don't think it evolves. I think, first, I think ego might mean something different for different people. I would just say the ego maybe is that sense of self, that sense of need. Does it evolve? It's just there until it isn't, really. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe Dawn, do you want to have a go?
My question, can I elaborate?
Sure.
Hi everybody. Thanks for addressing my question to start with. I'm just wondering, what I meant is really like, what is the general path between a person like full of desires and thinking about himself, like identifying with only the ego, very raw, very superficial part of individuality, and what are the milestones to realizing that non-duality? I mean, a person that's like, in my understanding at least, a person that is greedy and like whatever other sins they practice is just limited to realizing something as huge as non-duality. So what would be your any comments? Thank you.
I'm not really sure, but all I can say is that as far as I can tell, there still seems to be ego here. I mean, I'm quite self-obsessed in some ways, and I work out and I look in the mirror and I like to look muscular, and so I don't have the sense that the ego even ever died. It's just that the sense, but I do have the sense that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to change. It doesn't need to go anywhere. It's not really there. I don't think. Yeah.
Well, but you know, do you still like feel that you can't live without certain material things? Like for example, like everybody has a job, everybody kind of earns money for something, and say you can't imagine yourself at a lower position. You can't imagine your quality of life going down. You feel like it's not working for me, and I'm angry. I'm limited. You feel that negative emotion, and again, in my understanding, if you have some sort of intellectual understanding of non-duality, you will not be affected by these negative emotions.
Right. Well, I have no intellectual understanding of non-duality at all, none whatsoever. I don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. So okay, if I may ask, like, what's this meeting is generally about non-duality, right? I mean, I come to the right place, didn't I?
Yeah, but it's not. I mean,
sorry, didn't mean to offend anyone. It's just
no, but it's just that it's not an intellectual realization. So my mind can't understand what non-duality is at all. I mean, this is probably a better question for Dawn, I think, because I actually don't know what non-duality. I'm more here talking about Kundalini, but I do know non-duality isn't a thing. So it's certainly not an intellectual understanding. It's not like, oh, I get it now, and then everything changes. It's the end of a particular type of energy. And what that energy says, if it could speak, was that something needs to happen, in order for me to be okay. I'm not okay unless X, Y, and Z happens, whether that's getting a job or maintaining a certain lifestyle that you're used to, etc., etc. Nothing needs to happen for this to be okay already. That's the best I can describe it.
Hamish, in that sense, you're more of a Kundalini explorer. You're not really.
Oh yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but feel free to ask the others.
I'm coming from more of a perspective of traditional Advaita Vedanta philosophy, where you, if anyone's familiar with that, it's like there's a path, there's an obligatory path that a person would walk over one lifetime or more than one lifetime, if you believe in a thing like that, and you kind of you'd need to be at a certain evolutionary stage to realize non-duality. Is anybody familiar with the actual tradition of Advaita?
I think that kind of, I mean, that's in the light of the kind of statistics around it and any of the research, that's kind of more kind of falling apart. I think now that idea that there has to be some kind of maturity, or it seems to happen quite randomly. I mean, so there's nothing. I mean, there really is kind of, there's nothing you need to do, in that sense. Certainly glimpses that there's if you're in a retreat or something, you're more likely to have glimpses can be kind of gotten via psychedelics perhaps, or retreats. I mean, that's different in a way, but it's sort of like permanent shift. I don't think that can really be brought about, nothing you can do in a sense. So yeah, that's what's playing out. And I think because it seems to be happening much more commonly than it was. So, you hear stories all the time of people just walking down the road or cycling or whatever, waking up.
May I ask maybe about Don? May I ask about your experience? From what I found out, you mentioned that you actually experienced a sort of enlightenment. What was that like?
The shift. What it was just it's just an intro, isn't it? Non-duality, the seeing of nothing. What aspect are you interested in? Like, what aspect?
Well, specifically, what you would call an enlightenment. I mean,
it's a realization of what you took to be yourself, but on a deeper level. There is no one. There's just one thing. So it's seeing through that. There's just this one thing, and so there's no separation. It's basically there's no one in here. There's no one out there. And another level, things continue, but I mean it's the collapse of identification, really, of just being this person who's separate from the world, and that's experience, I think, in the non-location aspect of it. So it's seeing that there's nothing, there's no phenomena, there's just the void and form at the same time. That's the mystical seeing, really, and brings about quite a lot of change. And at the heart of it is unconditional love, which includes everything and is just absolutely beautiful. Yeah, and brings out perceptual changes. I mean, there's all sorts of changes that occur, and it's different in many cases, apart from the obvious sort of collapse of the person. But the person who continues in a way, like there isn't, there's no boundary, but it's like, so in a sense, there's time, no time.
Okay, all right. Thanks for sharing that.
It's very ordinary and very extraordinary at the same time. It's all very paradoxical. So life just goes on, and it's experience energetically for me. It's just totally different. It's experienced like weightlessness, like no physicality whatsoever. That's how I experience it. So,
and do you experience it in like glimpses, as you said, or is
it's just, feeling? There was just a collapse, and that was it. It was just it was 2012, and nothing came back. So just,
okay. Like I said, thanks for sharing that. But I suppose there would be other people asking questions. So I guess I'll take off.
Come back if it goes quiet. Come back if it goes quiet.
Sorry?
I said, feel free to call back on if we've still got time and no one's got any questions. But yeah, anyway.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cheers, folks.
Cheers.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the end of something that never started. So
never started on time.
well, what that means is as far as an evolutionary type thing.
Can I say something?
Yes, go please.
Yes, I just want to say hi to Dawn. We used to speak.
Oh yeah, hi. Yes, it's been ages.
Just hi. It's nice to see you.
Yes,
I don't know if there's some time extra, or are we finishing the session?
Yeah.
There's time to say something?
Oh yes, yeah, because we probably confused a few people. I'm willing to extend the time here. So go right ahead. There's no rush.
It's just a very short question because I had like a pretty strong Kundalini awakening a few years ago, and many different things happened. And I just wonder if you're like familiar with like the two kind of energies. Is one goes up and the other one goes down, and especially the one that goes down go very gradually, like for years already, going down and down, like from the head into the heart, and from the heart to the roots, and all over again, over and over again. I mean, it's like pretty massive, and it seems like it's really sort of deconstructing whatever it is deconstructing in a very gradual, dramatic way. But it's really like up top and top down. Anyone?
Go ahead, because
I was just going to say, I'm familiar with your. We talked about all that, and like I just didn't experience it like that. But it's really interesting your story, and because it's quite deep what's been going on with you, isn't it? And I don't know. With me, I've never differentiated between moving up or moving down. It doesn't seem to, do that there. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know about Hamish. You mentioned something similar, no?
I've never had it go down. I don't think. I'm only having it going up.
Oh, yeah, because
it seems. It feels like that, like the one that comes up, it's really coming like from the earth, like really the mother, the yin energy, like sort of feminine energy. It's all about like matter and experiences and sensuality and all that kind of stuff. And like the one that comes down, it's really coming from, let's say, from above of the sky. And then it's a very different kind of energy. It's not about experiencing anymore. It's not about like kriyas or visual stuff, or like, it's more about like it's a very quiet kind of energy that's really sort of like penetrating into the body. And it's sort of gradually, I don't know, it seems like it's gradually sort of eating up all kind of stuff in the body. That's the best way to say it. And I think the most interesting, it's like when the energy goes down and it's really sort of going like, when it's really passing by the throat and into the heart, like all this mind looping and the stories and all this repetition, over and over again, the very nagging stories, they seem to be very quiet. So I just wanted to share that it's just a suggestion for my part that like when the energy really stuck in the head, like the mind can really be very like repetitive, like over and over again. And once it's like going like beneath the throat, like as if the voices of the mind, not really like, I don't know how to say, like the voices of the mind, like not really, it's like getting, in a way, it's like shutting up in a way, it's sort of into the heart and into the body. And like everything gets so much quieter. It's like very strange because the stories can be very powerful, or, the stories of the past, conditioning, traumas, all that stuff. So I used to have like a lot of trauma in the body, but like the more like the energy like penetrating down into the body, it seems like that the trauma is getting less and less and less and less. And I just wanted to share that because I mean we are all trying to explore what is going on. And
Thank you.
But your shift, because your Kundalini came after the shift. I mean, you've had the non-dual seeing as well, haven't you? And it's continued on, hasn't it? So, has it evolved? I mean, has it changed recently? Just out of curiosity.
That's what I'm trying to say. The energy that comes up, it feels like it's really sort of the initial opening of the body. Like it's really sort of really try to open up the system in a lot of power, like it's really have to break through all the blockages of the chakras and the body.
Has it changed in your life? I mean, like, has it changed things around you?
A lot.
Oh, right, okay. In a positive, is it a positive way then and stuff?
Yeah, well, I had first to go through the very dramatic shifts in my life, like separation and devastating events. So I mean, everything had to change because that was really the old stuff, the way I used to think, the way I used to be in relationship, the way I used to be in the world, feel the world, experience the world. Everything was like very polarized, there was a lot of resistance. So it feels like energetically, like as if there is more and more dissolving of here and the world. There's more and more. So that's a huge change.
That's cool. So it's good, brought you to a good place. I mean, it sounds like things are good. Just
yes. Well, it's not about good or bad, because there's also a lot of challenges. But I think like the real like, I think like the stories, the trauma, all these repetitive patterns, how you are in the world and relating to people, that this has really changed dramatically in a way that I couldn't do it myself. Never. It's not possible.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's just like people talk about Kundalini. I'm not really sure that we even know what it is. It's just like try to explore what's going on.
No,
and maybe Kundalini is just the life force. We are all Kundalini in a way. It's just the life force, the life itself, the energy of life. And when the Kundalini starts to move or whatever, it's like we get much more of this energy. It's like really a much more forceful life energy, and it really changes a lot in the body, and it's just fascinating, really, really fascinating process to go through, and very tough. It can be very tough one.
It can be sparked off around near-death experience stuff as well. It's often the process starts around that, and so because it's actually some of the features are part of near-death experiences as well. So there's overlap between the two.
Right. Anyway, I basically just wanted to say hi, Don.
No, it's great to see you again. It really is. Yeah. It's an interesting point in time we met, wasn't it? So like for both of us.
Yeah. For me, it was pretty dramatic. The whole non-dual stuff. It was really interesting. Anyway, thank you.
Cheers.
I don't really have a question. Just wanted to show that perspective.
Any other questions? If not, I'd like to just give Don and Hamish a chance to tell you what they got going on. Anything coming up we should let people know about?
Yeah,
All
right. Okay, I'm meeting in the Philadelphia Association in London that'll be on the 15th of December. That's the next thing I've got. So it'll be on the meetup with non-duality with Don Garland. And it'll be on
is that still on is that still on in the same place on Friday?
Yeah, 7 p.m.
Cool.
Not 6 and not 8, 7.
I don't have anything upcoming. I've got a channel called Kundalini and Non-Duality. It's just a video diary of this crazy experience that's happening. So yeah.
And you have a book?
Oh yeah. I wrote a book in lockdown. It's called The Hierophant or The Way of the Fool, and it's about a pilgrimage I did to Santiago de Compostela in Spain. And it's really a sort of romantic love story, adventure, and a true story, but it does have sort of poetic nuggets of non-duality in there, or at least an attempt at poetry. And that's only available on Kindle, but I will hopefully have a paperback available maybe next year sometime.
I guess the only thing I want to plug is, let's see, I think it's just called Chatting Non-Duality on Facebook. It's chatting #non-duality. And all it is a place where I post upcoming events and with the Zoom links. So stuff like this. I did one earlier today. And so it's just these videos I put up there, but also the invitations to join us live for things like this. So pretty much doing them every week. And if you want to be kept in the loop, then you can join that group. It's a public group. But it's really not like the typical posting non-duality, thoughts and things like that. It's just about what's going on this channel. So that's it. That's all I want to let people know about. And we'll do this again next month. Will you join us again, Hamish?
If you'll have me back, of course. Yeah, this was really fun. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we'd love to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Dawn, for being here.
Yeah, cheers.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.